Hello and welcome to another tutorial by Gran's Knotty-Hobby. And today we'll be talking about the tools that we use in our crochet and knitting hobbies. First of all, let's start with hooks today. I wanted you to see the types of hooks that there are available and talk about a couple of them. I think I have somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 hooks right now. Doesn't seem like a lot when I see what other people have. But I wanted to talk to you about each kind that I have, not necessarily the size, but more like the handle and the makeup and the material that it's made of. So clearly this one is just a giant plastic hook. I don't even have a clue what size it is. It's not labeled in any way. It's obviously used for some bizarre thing that I've never heard of and would never try. This is a boy. You can, I think, see the name. It is an H hook. It's one of the oldest kinds of crochet hooks that I'm familiar with. This is kind of what I started with when my grandmother taught me how to crochet when I was about 5. These tend to be kind of hard on your hand, partly because the wording is raised lettering here on the flat surface, which is where we typically put our hands when we, our fingers when we begin to crochet. Here's a little bit of a bigger one. This is a J. It's also a boy needle or hook. Here's another, probably used this size for crocheting with thread, something else I can't do. Another kind is a plastic one. It's also solid plastic. It does have the flat surface here to rest your finger and thumb on when you work. This is a pretty big one. This is a 12 millimeter. Also kind of hard on your hands in my opinion. After you crocheted for a while, the hard surface does begin to wear on your middle finger where you rest your hook, and your thumb and forefinger where you place them on that flat surface. These are the newest addition to my collection that I have to tell you I'm very disappointed in. When I purchased these, you know, I'm not much of a reader. I just look at the picture and go, oh, those are pretty. So I purchased these. They weren't very expensive because I buy them in a place where I get a very low discount. Or a very high discount, depending on how you look at it. I thought these handles were silicone. They are not. They're hard plastic. And this curve is not, in my opinion, very comfortable for me. It might be for you. So, you know, don't go assuming that I'm, you know, telling you what's right for everybody, but they, for me, are uncomfortable. They might be better for somebody who holds the hook differently than me. For me, I hold mine like this. So, it's just awkward. Maybe I just need to get used to it. I tried it for a while, and then I put it down. I'll go back to it, and maybe I'll find a comfortable way to work, which is what I did when I got these. These are bamboo. Again, they came to me very inexpensively. I didn't like them at first. Again, I was disappointed, but I did that. I set them down after I'd tried them. I went back to them, and for the longest time, this was the exclusive hook that I would use, just the bamboo ones. And I find that they are still very comfortable. These do have the flat surface on one side only, though. So you do have a thumb rest, but nothing for the pointer finger and the middle finger where you would put them in the back. But for whatever reason, I do find these very comfortable. My technique is often that when I am creating a stitch and I go under or around to do a front or back post, I go very deep in. I don't shallow crochet. I kind of go further in, and a hook without a handle works, or a hook without a different material on the handle works very well for me, because this is one smooth piece of bamboo, so it goes in and out quite easily. Whereas when you have these kinds of hooks with this little the shaft here ends, so to speak, and the handle begins. So you can only go this far into your stitch, which in my technique is just a little harder. However, these handles are silicone. These are also boy, but the silicone is incredibly comfortable. I adore these hooks. My daughter got these for me for Christmas, an entire set, and I absolutely adore them. So, as you can see, I do have quite an assortment here. I'm kind of gonna kind of pile them for you. And what I actually have done is I've divided up my hooks. These are the sizes that I use most commonly, and I store them in these beautiful ceramic, these used to be vases, I think, I'm not sure. But I'm going to kind of dump these in here and go on to some of the other tools here. Let's get them out of the way. I'll straighten them up later for you. I think one of the next most critical tools is an assortment of scissors. Now, again, just like the hooks, the important part is to find what works for you. Don't go by what works for me. I will discuss a couple of different kinds. I picked up a sewing machine with some pretty extensive accessories in a case for free, actually. And these scissors were in there. Now, I assume they were used for sewing by whomever owned that machine prior to me. But these are really good. I find these to be kind of comfortable. These are actually surgical scissors, and who knows how I came across those, but they're quite sharp, and I really like them. These are a small crafting scissor that I picked up at probably Hobby Lobby, or probably Michael's. I don't go to Hobby Lobby. Who knows? However, my absolute favorite scissor is these nip style scissors. You get one in almost every kit you buy when you buy a kit of tools and accessories, and that's how I discovered these. These are extremely sharp on the blade, and they're so convenient. You really don't need a tool that you can necessarily open wide, because let's be serious, we're talking about yarn. So these work very well. They maintain the edge on the blade, and this little sleeve makes it great because I tend to poke myself with a lot of stuff. I'm not the most graceful person on earth. Next, I want to talk to you about these little tools. A tweezer, actually various kinds of tweezers. I actually picked these up at the dollar store. These are like your typical eyebrow tweezers. I don't tweeze my brows, but my kids do, and I just picked these up. These are tools, a set that I picked up at the dollar store, just because it seemed handy to have a variety of tools that we could use to maybe pick things up off the floor or pull the hair out of your project. Seems like everybody seems to crochet a little bit of their hair into the project. So these came from the dollar store. These are your standard eyebrow tweezers. Next, an important piece of equipment to have is a variety of darning needles, or yarn needles as people call them. Sometimes people use these to weave in ends. I use them for that occasionally, but I typically will do that with a hook. I do have different sizes in the eye, from smaller to bigger, and obviously different lengths with which to use for various projects. And I also love the bright color. I like that chartreuse is really pretty. These are not a crochet tool. These are a knitting tool. These are used in the production of a cable design into your project. I think you could probably use them in crochet, but I'm not too honestly, I can't do the cable. It's something that escapes me. I need to practice doing that some more. But anyway, this came in a set of utensils that my daughter bought me. Here's another set of darning needles. These also came with the sewing machine that I told you about earlier. These are just the different ones that people use for a variety of things, and you can see here what they are used for. Some are for carpet, some are for repairing your baseball glove, the sail in your sailboat, a mattress needle. This one is hooked or curved. There was another one in here somewhere. Oh yeah, here it is. They have various sizes, which these curved ones can be really pretty handy to use. They seem to, they come right around that corner when you're trying to put something precisely where you want it. So, metal, plastic, it's your pleasure. Now, these are what I call vital to life, and I have quite a few of them, which my granddaughter just spent quite a bit of time organizing by color for me. We kind of all joke in this family, we're all hyper OCD types. We have to have everything organized. We color code our M&Ms and our Skittles too. Anyway, you can see how many of these I have. These are absolutely vital. When I make a large project, I do a lot of graph GANs. So when you're doing a huge project, I will put a stitch marker every 10 stitches and at the end of every row, and then a different color at the end of one stitch marker on every 10 stitches as you go along, and then one on every row. So, and then every 10th row is a different color. I love my stitch markers. We all know that there are numerous kinds of stitch markers, but I love these little plastic safety pins. They are amazing. You can also see I have quite a few little containers. This is a part of my OCD and my organizational thing. So this little gadget, this also came in a big old kit that my daughter bought me. It too is like a big safety pin. This is great when you have to put your work down for a little while. You put this through the stitch, your last stitch that you worked on, and then kind of weave it in so that there's no way you can pull on it to lose work that you've done, and kind of pull it all out and unravel it. This little row or stitch counter is an amazing little tool. This too came in a little kit that I had, and at each stitch you just turn it, or each row, depending on how big your project is. It's amazing how much this adds to the ability to crochet and not have to concentrate, which I don't do very well because I watch a lot of TV when I'm crocheting. So get yourself one of these if you don't have one already. Something along these lines. It doesn't have to be this one, of course. There are certainly plenty of varieties out there, whichever works for you or meets your pleasure. Tape measures. I have a few of them. This one happens to be my favorite. It's plastic, But it's much like the construction tape measures, where you just pull it out and then you push the little button to retract it. One side has centimeters, one side has inches, depending on how precise you want to be. I usually use the centimeters, even though, yes, I'm in America and that's not standard for us. I like the centimeters just because you can be so much more accurate. You can use these to both measure your end product, the end of your project, or if you're doing clothing, or even an Afghan, if you're unsure how long to make it, or how or wide around the circumference of someone's head, if you're making hats and so forth. So if you're custom making a hat, you want to measure the head to make sure you end up with something that's going to fit them. Oh, I see in here I have another kind of a stitch marker. These simply open up and you just slip it through your stitch. And these are pretty good, but they tend to fall out, in my opinion. So, and I'll tell you something else that I use a lot of. I want to show you this little thing. It's not even meant for sewing. Most of you will recognize this if you have a cell phone. This is the little tool that you use to open up your compartment for your memory card or your SD card. This thing has come in more handy than I can tell you. Sometimes I have knotted two ends of yarn to continue on or change colors, and realized that I either knotted too soon or too late and I needed to undo the knot. This little tool goes inside those knots really well, so that you don't fray your yarn right there at that junction. So there's that. So here, again, I just want to kind of throw a couple of things in here. Some of these tools, the variety of kinds that you can get. These giant hooks, hard plastic, the bamboo, and where's one of my silicone ones? Here's one of my giant silicone ones. Your scissors. All of these are pretty much the standards of what you need to have when you want to set off on this crochet journey. It is kind of a rabbit hole, I'm warning you. Once you get there, you won't want to return. Anyway, here's a variety of tools that you can choose from, and I hope you enjoy. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to our next get-together. In the meantime, happy hooking from Grant's Knotty-Hobby.